My name is Ryan. I'm the designer of the card game Archduke. Today we're going to learn how to play. Let's get started. Archduke is a fast-paced card game that combines elements of speed, memory, luck, and competition. It's quick to learn and can be played by 2 to 6 players using one deck or up to 12 by combining 2, though the optimal group size is about 4 to 10. Players have a set of cards, starting with 4, placed face down in front of them. Some that they know, some that they don't. Each card has a point value ranging from -3 to 13, shown in the corners of the card. For number cards, it's the large number. For face cards, the smaller number here next to the symbol. The player then has a sum of points in their hand, determined by adding up all the point values of every card. So in this case, I have 1, 6, 11, 5, for a total of 23. The goal of the game is to have the lowest sum of points at the end of each round, accomplished by swapping, stealing, and getting rid of cards. Points are scored after each round, with the game continuing to an agreed-upon mark, at which point the player with the lowest score wins. To get started, you'll need the Archduke deck, of course, as well as a pen and paper handy to keep track of players' scores throughout the game. Shuffle the cards and deal 4 face down to each player. The remaining cards are placed face down in the center of the table to form a draw pile. Players then arrange their cards in a 2x2 grid in front of them. Throughout the game, it's important that as cards come and go, they A, always remain face down, and B, their positions never be rearranged. Before the game begins, players have one opportunity to look at any 2 of their own cards, returning them face down to the same position. Players should remember their value and location. Once all players have looked at their 2 cards, the dealer turns over the first card of the draw pile to form the start of a discard pile. Play begins by the player left of dealer, and any other player may immediately match if possible. We'll get to matching in a minute. In general, a player's turn consists of drawing a card, and if they choose to keep it, exchanging it for one of the face-down cards in their set. If picking from the draw pile, the player looks at the new card, keeping it secret, and chooses to keep it or discard it. If the player chooses to keep the card, they use it to replace one of the cards face down in front of them. If picking from the discard pile, the card must be kept and is replaced into the player's set in the same way. In either case, the card being replaced is immediately discarded face up, and other players may match their own on top. If that card or any of the matches are action cards, the actions are resolved in the order played. Once all actions are resolved, this player's turn is over, and play continues clockwise. Matching is the only way to get rid of cards. At any point in the game, if a discarded card matches the value or symbol of one of the player's own cards, they may quickly discard that matching card without replacement, thus creating an empty space in the player's set. However, this window of opportunity is only open until the next player in rotation starts their turn by touching either draw pile. It's advantageous for a player to anticipate their upcoming turn in order to shorten the other player's matching window. There are 2 ways that a player can fail at matching. 1, they're late and match after the next player has started their turn, or 2, they match the wrong card. In either case, the player must take back the attempted match and take a penalty from the draw pile, adding it to their set without looking. There is no limit to the amount of cards that can be matched at one time. Now that we know how to play, let's look at some of the special cards in the game. There are 3 action cards: peek, swap, and give. Peek. The player may peek at any one card on the table, theirs or another player's. Swap. They may steal another player's card in exchange for their own, or swap one card each of 2 opposing players in order to confuse them both. Give. The player may give a penalty card from the draw pile to any other player. This receiving player does not get to look at their new card. There are 3 special point cards in the game: the Archduke and 2 Eclipse cards. Keep track of the Archduke card, as it's the only one worth negative points instead of positive. Pay attention to these Eclipse cards, as some are worth 0 points, whereas others are worth 13. Play continues until one player believes that they have the lowest sum of points at the table, and calls Archduke at the end of one of their turns. All other players then receive one more turn. They reveal their cards, and points are tallied for that round. If the player who called Archduke does in fact have the fewest points, all points are scored and a new round begins as normal. However, if a different player tied or beat them with a lower score, the player who called Archduke is assassinated and must draw a random penalty card from the draw pile, adding its value to their score for the round. The benefit of calling Archduke is that player is immune from action cards played by others. In essence, they cannot be swapped from a swap card or given extra cards from a give card. They may continue to match as normal and are still subject to penalty cards from their own mistakes. If, at any point, a player matches down to 0 cards, the round ends immediately and points are tallied. A full game of Archduke consists of several rounds played until an agreed-upon mark. At that point, the player with the lowest total score wins. This mark may be as short or as long, as formal or informal as desired. Here are some suggested marks, but feel free to adapt your own or just play until you get bored. Play a set number of rounds, for example 10 rounds. Once any player reaches a certain point threshold, for example 100 points, the game ends. Once a player reaches a certain point threshold, for example 100 points, they're eliminated from play. Continue playing and eliminating until only 3 players remain, then play one final round. And now you know how to play Archduke. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy my game. If you do, make sure to follow us on social media. You can also leave a review at boardgamegeek.com.